everyone, welcome to week 3 of sock season, October 15th through 21st, 2023. I'm Carol, host of a Stitch in Time podcast, and I can be found on Ravelry as Knits and Pearls. This week we're going to look at 6 more pairs of socks from the Handmade Sock Society by Helen Stewart of Curious Handmade, and then we're going to finish up with a very special pair of Olympic socks. So this week I'm going to show you socks from the Handmade Sock Society 3, which was published in 2020, and this collection was inspired by the atmosphere. So first up are the Ambient Socks. They are knit from Midknit Cravings Sweet Sock in the colorway City of Bridges, which is a reference to Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, which is where Midknit Cravings is located. And then the complementary heels and toes are knit from Afternoon Tea, which is part of their Anne of Green Gables collection. So as you can see, this sock features a 1x1 twisted rib, some lace and cable stitches that run up and down the front and back, has an eye partridge heel, and then I've done my usual rounded toe. This is a very similar color palette to what was used in Helen Stewart's sample. And when I saw the pattern, I knew exactly which yarn I wanted to use. And I am super happy with the way this pair turned out. So why don't I show you what they look like on my feet? Next up are the Luminary Socks, knit from Skein Top Draw Sock in the Quill colorway. This pattern was inspired by stars, and when I bring the socks up more closely, you can see some, just a very thin line of lace running up each side of each sock, and then some little star-like cluster stitches on the front of the sock. Features a traditional heel flap and gusset, 1x1 twisted rib cuff, and again I've put in my usual rounded toe. This yarn is so beautiful. I had held on to this for ages until just the right sock came along, and I could not be happier with how these socks knit up in this yarn. They are one of my favorite pairs of socks from the Handmade Sock Society in general, and in fact I would say that this collection features most of my favorite socks from Helen Stewart. So once again, here's a little clip of me modeling them. The third pattern in the collection is the Cirrus Socks, inspired by clouds. So I knit mine from Fiber Nymph Dye Works Bounce in the denim colorway. As you can see, once again, they begin with a 1x1 twisted rib cuff, feature this lace and textured pattern running down the leg, a traditional heel flap and gusset, and then a plain stockinette foot. I really like the way this semi-solid or tonal yarn lets these stitches shine, and the color reminded me of a beautiful blue sky. I made one minor adjustment to these socks. I knit an extra half a round on one of the socks before beginning the heel flap, and in that way I was able to place this rather obvious beginning of round to the inside of each sock, so that when I'm wearing them, you don't see them. See, I would wear that on the inside, those towards the outside. It's a little thing, but it makes me happy. Now let's see if after going to all that trouble, if I remembered to put them on that way when modeling them for you. I have no idea if I did. If you have clouds, sometimes you have rain. These are the rainy window socks, knit from Hazel Knits Artisan Sock in a one-of-a-kind or rogue colorway. Again, they begin with a 1x1 twisted rib cuff. They feature this raindrop pattern down the front of the sock, and then there's a little cable pattern that runs along each side of that front panel. Traditional heel flap and gusset, and of course I subbed in my rounded toe. So let's take a look at them on my feet. With their chevron striping at the top of each sock, the altitude socks bring to mind mountain peaks. This is one of my favorite pairs from this collection. I knit mine from Madeline Tosh Euro sock in the 11 light and 11 dark colorways. I just absolutely love everything about these socks. This speckled yarn and the purple stripes. And matching toe. You can see it's a traditional heel flap and gusset, just a plain stockinette foot. Let me show you how these look on my feet. You can get a better idea of the chevron striping at the front of the socks. The sixth and final pattern from this collection is the Vapor socks. I'm not quite sure what color Vapor is, but somehow this periwinkle blue spoke to me. The yarn is from Black Cat Custom Yarns. It's the everyday sock in the Dratini colorway, which is a Pokemon reference. There is a lace pattern that runs up the front, meant to look like vapor rising from the yarn or steam from a tea kettle, and then it is bordered by this line of lace on either side. Now once again, a 1x1 twisted rib cuff. I think every sock in this collection has that, and then a traditional heel flap and gusset. I just think this is a very feminine and pretty pair of socks. And here's a model shot for you. Socks for this week, hold some very special memories for me. These are the Lace Maple Leaf Socks by Jackie Erickson Schweitzer, and they are knit from Handmaiden Kasbah in the Autumn Apple colorway. As you can see, they feature a chevron lace cuff, a lace design that runs down the leg and heel flap, and then a stockinette foot. To me, these colors just scream fall. But I knit them in February of 2010 during the Vancouver Winter Olympics. I live about 100 kilometers or 60 miles east of Vancouver, and I can tell you that that was such an exciting time for our province and for our country. And I followed the Olympics very closely that year, cheering on all of our athletes. I was participating in a couple of make-alongs at the time. The first was for the 50 Socks, 50 Socks, 50 States and More pattern collection. As you might surmise, there was a sock design for every state, plus several more, for instance, for Mexico, Washington, D.C., and Canada. I was also taking part in the Ravel Olympics. Do you remember when we used to be allowed to call it that? That was before the Olympic Committee took issue with the name, and Ravelry had to change it to the Ravel Lennox. I was on Team Tufty, according to my project notes. I'm going to read from my project page. I watched a lot of Olympics and cheered on Canada while knitting these socks, and even took them to the Olympic Cauldron in Vancouver. I'll see if I have a picture of that. I was working on the last toe when the Canadian men's hockey team squeaked out a win over Slovakia to advance the gold medal game, and finished them up just as the Canadian men were presented their gold medals for the 5,000 meter short track speed skating relay. Those Olympics were special for me, not only because they were held in Vancouver, but also because the preceding autumn, my husband and I had been in Greece, and we had been to Olympia and seen where the Olympic torch is lit. And then we also saw the stadium in Athens where the torch is leaves from to begin its trip to the host country. We were able to see the torch being passed on just about less than a mile from where I live, and then, as I already mentioned, we went to Vancouver and saw the big Olympic cauldron. So it was just a very special time and a very meaningful Olympics. So I will show you now a picture of me wearing these. Up sock season week 3. I will provide links for my Ravelry project pages for all of the socks that I showed you today. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you'd like to see some more knitting, maybe some cross stitch and some occasional quilting, you can check out my regular episodes of A Stitch in Time podcast. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye.